This is 26-year-old Nicholas Kerisio. He didn't run, he didn't fight. After pulling the trigger, he simply circled back and surrendered to the flashing lights. It looks like the tragic end to a classic road rage dispute. The kind we see every day, a swerve, a cutoff, a blaring horn that boils over. Nearly a third of Americans admit to letting their temper snap behind the wheel, but it rarely ends in homicide.
He didn't run. He didn't fight. After pulling the trigger, he simply circled back and surrendered to the flashing lights. That's the image that sticks. A man who just fired multiple rounds into another driver's vehicle, casually parking his car, placing his weapon on the passenger seat, and walking toward the officers with his hands visible. It looks like the end of a road rage dispute. But road rage rarely ends with a bullet to the back of the head. Before we go deeper into what the evidence actually shows, make sure you're subscribed to Shadow Jury Archives. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the facts. Visualize the scene.
It's the early morning commute in Central Florida. The sun hasn't broken through yet. Orlando resident Ricky Johnson is driving eastbound on Colonial Drive and comes to a stop at a red light. That's when he hears a familiar but out-of-place sound.
Central Florida, early morning. The sun hasn't broken through yet. Commuters are heading east on Colonial Drive, the routine rhythm of a workday morning. At a red light, a white Chevrolet Impala cuts across two lanes and stops at an angle, blocking a dark Hyundai Elantra behind it. What happens next unfolds in seconds, but the consequences will stretch across decades. A horn tap, a flash of headlights, a verbal exchange through open windows. One driver steps partially out of his vehicle, a firearm in his hand. The other driver, still seated, yells something back. 4 rounds follow in rapid succession. One of them strikes David Sly in the back of the head.
I need FD.
Inside the white Chevrolet Impala lay 30-year-old David Sly. He is unresponsive, bleeding from a gunshot wound to the head. The first deputy on the scene immediately begins life-saving measures. He was taken to a nearby...
This is the story of Nicholas Kerisio.
David Sly was just trying to get to the first day of a new full-time job. A certified forklift operator with a wife and a 1-year-old boy, he saw this Monday as a fresh start. Instead, he crossed paths with Kerisio. And Kerisio wasn't just a stressed commuter. He was a former Army infantryman who served as a guardian angel, trained to neutralize threats.
A 27-year-old former Army infantryman, and the man he killed, 30-year-old David Sly, a certified forklift operator on his way to the first day of a new job. Sly had a wife and a 1-year-old son. He saw that Monday as a fresh start. Instead, he crossed paths with Kerisio, a man who didn't see a frustrated driver at that red light. He saw a tactical situation.
When tempers flared at that red light, Kerisio didn't see a frustrated driver. He saw a tactical situation. Deputies detained Kerisio without incident and transport him to the Orlando Police Department for questioning. There, he is placed in interview room 6. At this stage of the investigation, the detective's goal is simple: establish a baseline account of what happened. Rather than challenge...
The irony of this case is not that Kerisio claimed self-defense. It's that he destroyed that claim with his own words. When detectives placed him in interview room 6 at the Orlando Police Department, they did something unusual. Rather than challenge his version of events, they allowed him to speak freely. They documented his narrative. And in that room, Kerisio talked himself into a conviction.
Did he get out of the car at all?
He did not get out of the car.
Okay. He just put the window down?
Yeah, so he already put the window down essentially when I had tapped the horn and flashed. He probably had it down like majority of the way, like 80%. And then at some point it probably went down the other little bit. I honestly didn't notice when it went down the other little bit. But
during that whole time, so you're able to clearly see, with his window down, you're able, when your bright lights are on, you're able to clearly see him.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you see any weapons at all? Did you see him with a weapon at all? Don't presume.
No,
don't assume.
No, I didn't.
What you saw?
I didn't see anything. That's what he told them. I definitely did not see anything in anyone's hands. When the detective pressed him,
what you saw?
I definitely did not see anything in anyone's hands, only because, I mean, from where I'm looking, yes, his chair.
Yeah, don't assume any of it. I just want to know if you saw,
no,
if he produced a gun, if he produced a knife, a stick, a bat, any of that kind of stuff. Did you see any of that kind of thing? That's what I'm asking.
Asking if he saw a gun, a knife, a stick, a bat, any weapon at all, Kerisio repeated the same phrase. "I didn't see anything," he said it once. He said it again. And then a third time, he confirmed that as far as his memory went, he didn't see David Sly produce any weapon. "I didn't see any weapon."
Did he turn left or turn his right?
Initially, so he's initially facing left.
Okay.
Then he kind of goes right into the vehicle.
Okay.
And then this is when I think that he's either messing with his shift or whatever the case might be. I don't know. I'm not assuming.
This is the moral refrain that would echo through the courtroom. "I didn't see any weapon." It's a phrase that dismantles the foundation of any self-defense claim. Because if you didn't see a weapon, what exactly were you defending yourself against? The ticking clock moment in this case arrives when the detective asks Kerisio a question that reframes everything.
Yes, sir.
And this is when other cars are moving?
Yes,
now
sir.
It's a green light.
Now it's a green light.
If you would have sat back down at this point, could you have driven around him to the left?
At this point, right, you're standing. You're still standing up. And this is when other cars are moving. Now it's a green light. If you would have sat back down at this point, could you have driven around him to the left? Kerisio's response reveals the truth. He could have. The lane was open. The light was green. He had a way out, but he didn't take it. What the jury heard in that interview was a man who had been trained to neutralize threats, who had a firearm readily accessible in his glove compartment, and who interpreted a traffic dispute as a tactical engagement. Kerisio described how he pointed the firearm at Sly, how Sly responded by yelling, "Shoot me," how he fired a warning shot into the ground to assess his response. The warning shot was supposed to be a demonstration of escalation of force. When Sly didn't drive away, Kerisio assumed the worst. He assumed Sly was reaching for a weapon, but he never saw one. The prosecution's case was built on that single admission. Kerisio never saw a weapon. Sly never left his vehicle. The traffic on the right side was already moving. Kerisio could have driven around him. Instead, he chose to fire multiple rounds into an occupied car. The bullet that killed David Sly entered through the back of his head. That's not a shot fired at a threat facing you. That's a shot fired at someone who was turning away. At trial, the defense argued that Kerisio reasonably believed he faced an imminent deadly threat. They pointed to the verbal confrontation, the blocked lane, the unknown intentions of the man in the white Impala. But the recorded interview was devastating. Jurors listened to Kerisio describe what he feared Sly might do, what he thought Sly might have, and what he assumed might happen next. Yet when detectives repeatedly asked what he actually saw, the answer was always the same.
I am now blocked in by a vehicle that does not, by a person who does not want to move their vehicle, and also by an angry person who I don't know what their intentions are. I wasn't the one driving recklessly that morning.
Okay. No, you were the person that shot somebody in the back of the head, right?
I'm the person who saved my life, who defended myself, sir.
I didn't see any weapon. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. 3 hours to reject a self-defense claim that Kerisio had spent an entire interview building. They returned a guilty verdict. Nicholas Kerisio was sentenced to 50 years for second-degree murder and 15 years for shooting into an occupied vehicle, to be served concurrently. He will spend decades in prison. David Sly will spend eternity in a grave. For everyone else, this case serves as a reminder that assumptions made in seconds can alter lives forever. Kerisio assumed Sly was reaching for a weapon. He assumed his training made him the only person capable of assessing the threat. He assumed that firing a warning shot was a reasonable escalation of force. But the law doesn't protect assumptions. It protects reasonable belief. And reasonable belief requires evidence. Evidence Kerisio admitted he didn't have. The call to research for this case is the interview itself. The full recorded statement of Nicholas Kerisio, given to the Orlando Police Department, is a matter of public record. It's been played in court, reported on, and analyzed by legal experts. Anyone can access it through court filings or public records requests. The transcript alone reveals everything you need to know about why this case ended the way it did. So here's the question for you, the viewer. If a man admits he didn't see a weapon, if he had a clear path to drive away, and if he fired multiple rounds into someone who never left their car, can that ever be self-defense? Or is that just murder with a convenient excuse? Drop your verdict in the comments. And if you found this breakdown compelling, share and subscribe to Shadow Jury Archives with notifications turned on. We'll be following more cases where the evidence speaks louder than the defense.